Hi there, everyone, and welcome to session number 2 of day 2. And here we have James Delves, Head of PR and External Engagement, who will be presenting on understanding changing consumer behaviours and surviving the cancel culture. So just quickly, a quick bio about James. James is recognised by both CIM and the PRCA as a chartered marketer and senior communication specialist. He spent the last 20 years executing marketing communication campaigns for many of the world's leading brands, including some big ones such as Netflix, Vodafone, Orange, Ericsson, Samsung, Intel, and many, many more. James, welcome, and please, by all means, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dominic. So good morning, everyone. As Dominic mentioned, I'm going to be talking to everyone today about understanding change that's going on in the market at the moment, both behaviour change and market change, and also some tips around how you can potentially survive cancel culture. So, as mentioned, I work for the Chartered Institute of Marketing. Our mission is to create marketing advantage for the benefit of professionals, business and society. We have members in 127 countries and provide marketers everywhere with access to qualifications and over 100 training courses on every marketing discipline. As mentioned, in my commsHERO session today, I'm going to explore changing consumer behaviour, expectations of brands, the rise of cancel culture, and best practice to avoid falling foul of being cancelled, and if you or your clients are affected by cancel culture, how to effectively and professionally respond to it. As marketers and comms professionals, we're living through turbulent times. Issues like the pandemic, the ongoing climate crisis, rising inflation, and the increasing popularity of cancel culture, marketing and comms has never been more in the spotlight. It's clear from CIM's latest impact of marketing research that consumers now expect brands to do more than just deliver value, but also to actively engage with societal and political issues, whilst keeping up with behavioural change. Our in-depth research explores the views of 500 plus marketers, both in-house and agency side. One of the key takeaways from this research is that the pandemic and rising inflation have increased consumers' expectations of brands with a clear prioritisation on convenience, value and values. 4/5 or 78% of marketers believe that it's their role within the business to represent the voice of the customer. However, it's also clear that many are struggling to understand changing consumer habits and what they value most. Our data shows that 59% of marketers are finding it harder and harder to effectively predict ever-changing consumer priorities following the pandemic, which in turn causes concern over the future of the brands they represent. When we asked about their faith in existing business models to address the two previous points, change in the market and change within consumers themselves, a massive 91% stated that they believe their brand must evolve to keep operating, and over a quarter felt that there's even a need to radically overhaul their entire business model and marketing approaches within the next decade in order to survive. Balancing the evolving needs of customers, meeting business objectives, and taking actions which address the enormous societal and environmental issues we currently face is incredibly challenging, but one that as marketers and comms professionals, we need to embrace if we're to stay ahead of the curve. Failure to understand the breadth of changes to consumers' wants and needs, combined with the turbulent past few years and the rise of social media platforms of a way of social expression, has seen the rise of cancel culture. Cancel culture and the idea of cancelling someone often starts with a familiar pattern. A celebrity or other public figure does or says something offensive, there is a public backlash, often fueled by social media, and a call to cancel them starts gathering momentum, whether through boycotts or their work or a disciplinary action from an employer. The main counter arguments against cancel culture is that it doesn't enable people or brands that have wronged society the opportunity to apologise learn from their mistakes, and correct them. If you look to the media, cancel culture has affected everyone from multinationals to SMEs and J.K. Rowling to even Mr. Potato Head. It's a global issue that affects every sector. Cancel culture has risen from genuine societal issues such as Me Too, which addresses power imbalances between public figures and far-reaching platforms, and the people and communities their words and actions may upset or harm. Without getting drawn into whether the concept itself is positive or negative, the fact is that such attacks have shifted from individuals to brands, has commercial and reputational impact for the for our marketing community, our clients, and our organisations. To understand cancel culture and how to address it, I'll cover 3 key topics today. Why it's important to read the room, because culture isn't static. As marketers and comms professionals, we need to keep abreast of what's going on in the world, particularly the markets we or our clients operate in. Putting the needs of your customers and their current needs at the heart of what you do is key and always has been to both communications and marketing. Are you basing your decisions on outdated processes and data? What actually are their priorities, and how are you actually going about addressing them? Finally, if the worst happens, how can you survive getting it wrong? How can you be resilient and potentially even come back stronger? Everything changes. Culture isn't static. As a dad, I'm keenly aware of this and very happy that my football mad daughter is growing up in a very different culture than I did. It was only 12 years ago that the FA raised the limits on mixed-sex football teams from 11 to 16, and only a few years before I was born that women were allowed to play football full stop. Fast forward to 2020, and our women's football team are the European champions. The 90,000 tickets for the England versus USA game last Friday night at Wembley were sold out in just 15 minutes ago on sale. We have record numbers of women playing football up and down the country, with talent centres providing them with the very latest training opportunities. Like so many aspects of our lives, things change, and our culture isn't static. Our attitudes and needs are constantly evolving, something as marketers and comms professionals we really need to embrace. Because culture and the environments we work in aren't static, as marketers, we have to keep pace with what's going on in the world, particularly the markets and what your customers and what's most important to them. One of our strongest values within an organisation is our ability to read the room and ensure relevancy by connecting our colleagues, products and services to modern culture. To try to help you do this successfully, SIM publishes regular research on consumer behaviour patterns, societal trends, and marketing data to help you stay ahead of the curve. For example, our Impact of Marketing Research series is a great place to start if you're looking to understand more about the current turbulent times. We first commenced our first Impact of Marketing report in 2019 with the goal of understanding the state of the UK marketing industry. Unknown to us then was how different and important the study would become in benchmarking marketing's changing role within business and indeed society during an incredibly turbulent time. Now in its 3rd year, we're carrying out the latest study during a pivotal period, a moment where our industry is hoping to continue to demonstrate the value it brings to business and societies, but at a change when societal challenges have certainly not abated. The impact of the pandemic, coupled with rising costs, skill shortages, global political unrest, all set against a backdrop of environmental crisis, means marketers are navigating an exceptionally difficult landscape. If you feel it's hard to keep up with all the changes, you're not alone. 59% of marketers admit they're confused by fast changing consumer priorities following the pandemic. Overall, the report shows that marketers are aware that times have changed and that we need to change with them as an industry or risk upsetting our customers. The idea that a person can be cancelled, in other words, culturally blocked from having a prominent public platform or a career, has become a polarising topic of debate. To many people, this process of publicly calling for accountability and then boycotting if nothing else seems to work has become an important tool of social justice, a way of combating, through collective action, some of the huge power imbalances that often exist between public figures or brands with influential platforms, wide-reaching tools, and huge audiences. But many have increasingly embraced the argument that cancel culture, rather than being a way of speaking the truth of power, has spun out of control and become a form of social mob rule. So has cancel culture had its day? The graph on your screen shows a Factiva search of global media sources, and that, while the topic may have peaked, current media mentions of cancel culture and stories around the topic are currently tracking at a third lower than the same point in 2021. Whichever side of the argument you stand, the fact is that it might be receiving less press attention, but it's just not going away. In fact, because our culture is not static, nor the movement, with its impact spreading from individuals and into the business world, with brands, not people, now under the spotlight. So with the stakes so high, what do marketers think of cancel culture? The graph on your screen shows the concern amongst marketers across a number of key sectors, indicating that concern and the gravity of the issue is clearly understood. But when you delve deeper into the data and compare people's response by age, a different story can be seen. 50% of 18 to 24-year-old marketers are worried about their organisations being a victim of cancel culture. This figure drops 5% to 45% with 25 to 34-year-olds. But 37% of 35 to 44-year-olds are worried. When we go to 45 plus, this dropped to 26%. In addition to contrasting in ages, we also see differences within sectors. For example, just 38% of marketers who work in the private sector are concerned about cancel culture, while 61% of those working in local government authorities were concerned. This tells us that cancel culture is very much in the minds of marketers, but its severity as a key issue does fluctuate between the sectors and age groups. So if we look at a brand affected by cancel culture, you can see the impact it can have. Swedish vegan milk brand Oatly has long been a favourite of eco-friendly consumers and households everywhere. However, after it sold 200 million shares to a consortium that include Blackstone, it triggered a Twitter thread accusing the investor of contributing to deforestation in the Amazon, which in turn saw the brand thrust into the media spotlight and many fans starting to boycott the company. It's clear that not understanding culture, being static, or even being access to the needs of your audience can create some major risks for brands, however good your intentions are. I'd like to look now how polarising the needs of your audience has an effect. And prioritisation. Marketers has always been the customer champion in business. We've banged the drum for the customers to be put at the very heart of everything a business does. Now more than ever, that should be true. All brands have responsibility to follow their core values and represent their customers as well as being successful. But consumers are more informed and skeptical than ever. In a 2018 study by communication firm Elderman, they found that 2/3 of consumers worldwide now buy based on beliefs. Great news for value-driven businesses, but the survey also found that 56% of consumers believe too many brands use social issues as a marketing ploy to sell more of their products. And because of this, cancel culture is not always directed at outward irresponsible brands, but also toward brands perceived to be overplaying their social and environmental credentials to gain favour or to make money. So what can marketers do? How can we please everyone? As President Lincoln famously said, you can please some of the people some of the time, all of the people some of the time, some of the people all of the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time. My advice would be to analyse your market, find out who your actual customers are and focus on them. You can't please everyone, so don't be swayed too much by negative voices or online haters outside your core market. Make sure what you're doing maps to your core values and that it is what your target audience wants and needs. Historically, brands have stayed out of politics for good reason. Taking sides can alienate a customer base, but in today's increasingly polarised climate, not taking sides can be a bigger risk. Brands can no longer afford to remain neutral because neutral is now viewed as complicit. That being said, empty statements of solidarity no longer suffice either. The consumer of today are more informed, empowered than ever before. They expect you to turn your words into actions, and if brands don't stick to their values or promises, consumers possess the knowledge, determination, and platform to call them out. In short, there's nowhere to hide. Before committing a thought to social media or commenting on an issue on camera, my advice would always be to think about it from the viewpoint of your core customer base. Then, if you still feel comfortable about talking about it, always include context to fully explain your point. That way it's harder for people to misunderstand or misquote you. We've discussed reading the market and understanding your customers. Asda is an example of a brand that I'm afraid did neither. When they rebranded its essential range, bright yellow, it was accused of poor shaming, as many felt that the bright yellow packaging alluded to the yellow stickers commonly seen in the reduced section of supermarkets. This led consumers to question whether or not Asda had taken shoppers' dignity into account and criticised the supermarket for embarrassing poor families. History tells us that you can survive getting it wrong if you own up to it and get the response right. Here are some best practice tips regarding being resilient and coming back from an issue like cancel culture. You may have heard of the KFC chicken crisis, which became international news in February 2018. After almost total collapse of its UK operations, customers took to social media. It all started when KFC and DHL promised collectively to revolutionise the UK food service supply chain from a single operations in Rugby. Yet within weeks of taking over the DHS delivery management system, or struggling to fulfil a just-in-time order culture among franchises across the UK. This triggered, on the 21st of February alone, 53,000 mentions of KFC running out of chicken, alongside hashtags such as chicken crisis and KFC crisis. Instead of hiding, the brand worked with a marketing agency in London to develop a campaign grounded in humility, humour and honesty. And so the FCK apology was born. Alongside that ad was a written apology in everyday conversational language. It read, "A chicken restaurant without any chicken is not ideal. It's been a hell of a week, but we're making progress, and every day more and more fresh chicken is being delivered to our restaurants." By the end of the campaign, 219 million social media users were exposed to the branded FCK image, meaning that within 3 months, the campaign had generated a total reach of more than 1 billion, all from one single ad. In fact, according to data from YouGov's Brand Index, KFC's advert makes such an impact on the public that 29% of people stated that they'd heard or seen something about the campaign. Up to 1 week after it happened, an increase from 7% of when the problem actually began. So their awareness had increased and people were actually talking about the restaurant more than they were before the issue. But other campaigns haven't followed the points we discussed today. I just want to draw one out so you can see the positive and the negative. Certain situations leave brands more vulnerable, such as the example when Pepsi launched a campaign aimed at ending racism. It was probably a stretch for any organisation to make that claim, but especially for a purveyor of sugary drinks in the eyes of the public. As marketers, it's critical that we understand our market and our audiences so we can react accordingly, avoiding trip hazards like this and focusing on the values close to our brand core. So what can we do to avoid trip hazards? To conclude, here are 8 tips to protect yourself and your campaigns from antagonising your target market and potentially getting involved in cancel culture. Stay close to your market and your audience's culture and understand your audiences, understand their needs, understand what's happening in the market, understand the common trends, the big issues. Build a team that includes a diverse range of views. Look overseas for support. Use basic networks like LinkedIn, particularly when dealing with global issues. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your colleagues, get different opinions when you build your campaigns or build your messaging. And always be honest. The best defense is always the truth. Moreover, make sure you have your facts straight before you speak and that you can back them up with what you say. Use evidence, use research, have documents on hand, have spokespeople trained and media trained with the correct documents. They can deliver content in an honest and effective way. Test your creativity and think outside of your company to ensure you're not acting in the bubble. It's really hard these days when we act in our teams. We have so many different markets you operate in. You can actually start believing your own hype, or you can start believing some of the issues in the market don't affect you. Expect that anything you write or say in front of the camera could end up trending on social media. It might mean thinking twice about what you say or write, or taking a bit more time to basically craft those social media posts or to create those campaigns, but it's well worth it in the long term. Expose yourself to industry thought leadership and the latest thinking on the subject. Keep up to date. Use all the research that SIM does. It's all free on the website. Go to other places of content. Read magazines, read articles, research the topic in the market so you understand it properly before launching campaigns. And call out poor practice internally. Put in place best practices. You may be absolutely up to speed on media training, but if you put various documents in place or processes, you can stop other members of your department or other members of your businesses making mistakes and then putting you in to help crisis manage the situation. If you can address the situation before it happens, it's always easier. Never fire and forget. Ensure your social comms and teams and spokespeople understand the hazards. Always include context in what you say or write publicly, even if it means writing slightly longer tweets. And make time to regularly train your teams. People don't know what they don't know. So there's loads of free source out there. There's loads of information. There's loads of training out there to help you avoid some of these issues. And hopefully, as well, some of the examples that I flagged up today and some of the stats and figures, if people within your business ask you to do things or ask you to greenwash or try to put spins on stuff, you can go back to them and say, look, I wouldn't do it this way because here are some examples of brands and customers that have done this, and this is the response. And hopefully you can avoid some of the trip hazards that some of the brands that I spoke to today have come. So I've gone through it very quickly, apologies. So just to conclude, some of the advice and stats and the industry examples will help you in the coming weeks avoid being affected by cancel culture. And also understand some of the markets and consumer changes we're all currently working at. Our markets and consumers will constantly keep changing. Please keep up to date. Please keep a review on what's going on in your particular core market sector. If you want to understand more about any of the topics today, I've made all the stats, the research, all the data, all the market, all the consumer information I've touched on today available on the SIM website. So if you click on our content hub, you can access all the reports for free. Everyone on the call can view all the reports, all the thought leadership. If you click on the second link down below, the newsroom app, you can find all the content around how to help show your value to the board. So take some of these learnings and how you can present some of these ideas to the board to help PR yourself and help promote yourself as well. So those learnings are completely free for everybody on the call. You can just click on those links and download that content today. So thank you so much for listening to me today. I know I've whipped through that a little bit quicker than I expected. I hope you found it interesting. I hope some of the advice and some of the stats and some of the research that me and my team have gone through and the data crunches today will really help you guys. If you need anything else, please email me, my email address on the screen there, or visit the 2 links I just put previously. And please access the data. Use all the SIM resource, and I really hope that all of you Evolve Council Culture understand all your markets and just please have a great time. And I hope you guys have found that interesting.
Thanks so much, James. Really, really interesting and some great examples in there. We do have a question here from Alice Brown. So Alice Brown is Customer Insight and Digital Engagement Officer at Broadacres Housing Association. She says, sometimes marketers' hands are tied when it comes to responding to a crisis. We may know the best practice to respond to a crisis, but how do we convince higher ups to take the same direction?
An excellent question, and one that's happened to me before in the past, particularly agency side. I would just, if you can create some of those best practice documents in place so you can talk about what's happened before, and I'd always go back and just try to explain what will happen if we take a particular course of action. So, for instance, I would just say, you want to put a particular spin on this. I think that's absolutely an idea. But if we do this particular way, this could happen to us. The Pepsi thing could happen to us. We could have issues in the market. Are we really listening to what our customers need? And I'll try to play back to the board or to my manager or to the exec or whoever I'm talking to a solution. Not to say no to them, but say that's a great way of doing it. But if we stick by best practice and if we literally make sure we're tying it back to our customers, what would our customers want us to say? And is there an issue in the market that can also use it as a way to back up what I'm saying? And hopefully by using some of these examples I put forward, there's more on the SIM website, Marketing Week, the drum, the campaign, all have great ways, all have great examples too. Our Catalyst magazine has loads of good examples that we try best practice. So just try to gather some of those topics together, try to grab some of those information sources and pull together kind of an argument against why you should greenwash or why you should try to put some sort of spin on the particular topic rather than just being honest and addressing the point head on.
Amazing stuff, James. Well, if there's no more further questions, we will say thank you. Finish up a bit earlier, and we will be resuming back here at 11 o'clock. So grab yourself a cup of tea, and we'll see you at 11. Thanks very much. Cheers, James.
Thank you so much, everybody.